You're listening to NewsHour from the BBC World Service with me, John Donnison. The United States has banned the sale and import of new communications equipment from 5 Chinese companies, including Huawei and ZTE. It's the first time US regulators have taken such a move on national security grounds. Huawei has denied supplying data to the Chinese government. Well, we can speak now to Emily Taylor, who's CEO of Oxford Information Labs. She's also editor of the Chatham House Journal of Cyber Policy. Thanks for joining us, Emily. So what are these security concerns specifically about these Chinese companies?
Well, the security risks are always voiced. This is the latest in a long line of moves from the US and allies against Chinese companies, but they tend to be rather generalized. And when you look for the smoking gun, the incident that changed minds, you're left sort of somewhat scratching your head. You remember a few years ago, the finance officer of Huawei was arrested in Canada, Meng Wanzhou. She was actually released in September 2021 after 3 years under house arrest. And there have been reports such as CNN had a long report in the summer about the risks of Chinese state-funded activities and investment in the US, but we don't really have, single or even multiple examples of actual evidence. It's more the generalized security risks.
Well, that was my next question. I mean, what is the actual evidence? But it doesn't sound like there is anything specific.
Well, I wouldn't want to downplay it because clearly, if you think about it for longer than a couple of minutes, where you have communications equipment that has capabilities, it is obvious that equipment could be abused for the purposes of espionage. And there is a long rap sheet for China in terms of its espionage activities, using cyber capabilities. But, of course, you don't have to own the equipment or manufacture the equipment to be able to subvert it in that way. I think that it's probably better understood as a geopolitical, an international competition type of concerns, and that reflect the growing tensions internationally between the US and China and other major powers.
I mean, it does seem to be being a bit coordinated, doesn't it? We had the British government blocking the sale of a semiconductor manufacturing plant in the UK to a Chinese-owned company this week. What do you think the likely response from the Chinese will be?
Well, we see, and as you mentioned, John, in your introduction, the Chinese government and the companies always deny that there is that close relationship. But you mentioned the semiconductors and the sale of the Newport manufacturing facility to a company owned by China. There are these concerns, and it's easy to say we will ban this, but it's less easy to do it. I mean, there was an order in the US to remove Huawei 5G equipment from rural areas. My understanding is that even as early as late as the summer of this year, that still hadn't been done. And the UK, which announced a ban on a rip and replace on Huawei 5G by January next year, that has been extended to December after BT warned of outages. So it's easy to make these announcements. It's less easy to disentangle global supply chains.
Interesting stuff. Well, that's Emily Taylor, who's CEO of Oxford Information Labs, also editor of the Chatham House Journal of Cyber Policy.